So welcome everyone to our International Women's Day. A bit of a conversation around awesome women delivering better outcomes. I'm Maria Muir, lead the Better Value Sooner, Safer, Happier kind of mission here in Asia Pacific. And I've been reflecting on International Women's Day this year in two modes. One has been on the embrace equity, but the other is on the digital theme. So kind of what has innovation and technology meant for us more holistically. And the thing that I've reflected on is actually one of the biggest opportunities and things that innovation and tech has done is allowed us the space to start to rewire and challenge how our organizations are structured away from the 1950s, if not earlier, mindset of command and control style leadership, or functional silos, or focus on output and milestones, to now like all those things that we're trying to change when we think of ways of working to actually help us to deliver better outcomes and create a more humane world of work. So I think that's what innovation and tech has done, along with the other kind of tech enablement bits, but that's what it's really helped us to do. So that is my motivation for this conversation today. I will start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands at which we're all coming here from. For me, that is the Wurundjeri people in Melbourne. And I pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging, and anyone else Aboriginal, in our presence here today. So the agenda for us, team, is we are going to start off with doing some stories of me. So one of the things that I think that is a bit underrated in terms of a capability and skill is storytelling. So we're going to be practicing our storytelling, but also that is a way to learn in the best way. So we'll be doing kind of two stories. One, the story of me. So I've invited some awesome women to share their stories of them, as well as stories of impact. And that impact is then all around how they have actually delivered better outcomes and created a more humane world of work. So as we're sharing those stories, please, I encourage all of you, let's use the chat to contribute into the conversation. We've only got an hour, so it's not a lot of time, but I think, let's have a two-way discussion as much as we can. So we'll share those two stories, and then we'll end off with, because what better way to not just create awareness and have this conversation, but what is then our challenge to be even better if? What are we then taking away? And what does that then mean for us? And that's how we'll spend the time together. So thank you for joining. I will hand over maybe Rajita to you first to do your story of me, and we'll go around the beautiful panel that we've assembled today. So Rajita, go for it. Tell us about you.
Thank you, Maria, and good afternoon, everyone. And it's great to see a diverse group here and really talk about things that are hashtag more than cupcakes. So I think it's great that we are here. Now, the story of me. So quick introduction. My name is Rajita Radhakrishnan. I am the HR director for the CMA CGM Group companies in Oceania. We are a shipping and logistics business. But more importantly, the story of me is really sort of moving from being an incompetent engineer to a reasonable recruiter to maybe an okay people and culture leader. So I just want to talk to you about, I guess, some of the defining moments in my life. So I was born and raised in India, had a lovely, fantastic childhood, always loved STEM, always loved science, and I loved public speaking for some reason. So I love storytelling. So, I mean, I'll tell you where this is going, but loved the concept of storytelling. And I was fantastic, with a mic in my hand as a 6-year-old. Turned that back into, I finished my VCE, if you like STEM, fine, let me go ahead and do an engineering degree. Did that, hated it, absolutely hated it. I just didn't think. I was very, very poor at it. It wasn't good. I lost interest. And that was sort of the first time that I started failing in life. And it was quite a low point. The defining moment for me during that time was I think after 3 or 4 years, when I remember sitting in my room in my orange pajamas and really thinking, like, it can't get worse than this, can it? I can't get worse than this. I'm so stuck. I can't get out of this situation. And until that point, I was blaming everyone else but myself. So a little bit of introspection really helped to say, well, actually, you know what? You hate it, but you're not even trying. So that's where it really sort of turned around, where I started trying. I've had a range of careers in tech. The one that I loved the most was being a BA, because I got to interact with people. So that was good. And then I thought, okay, well, I don't want to spend the rest of my life doing this. So I started, the one thing that you didn't need any experience or, any really qualification in was being a recruiter. And it was the cold face of selling, where you don't quite believe in what you're selling, but you're selling anyway. So I did that for a bit. That's when sort of I thought, oh, okay, maybe it's something that I'm good at doing. I remember, so this was back in the day of the offshoring, when offshoring started back in early 2000s. I was working in Bangalore, the tech city in India. I was working for GE Healthcare, and my project was, I had 6 months to set up an entire tech organization, about 300 people, move it from Milwaukee to Bangalore. So I was working with hiring managers who were going to lose their jobs and were particularly not interested in hiring anyone, and also a very, very competitive tech market. So good old recruitment 101, sales 101. We worked in a technology park, very common in India, large, groups of, complexes, which had, you had your IBMs and your Infosys and Wipros and all of that. So I happened to work in the same building as IBM. So I was working for GE, as I said. There was a coffee shop downstairs, and I met someone, getting my skinny latte. And he sort of mentioned that he worked for IBM and he worked in the SAP practice, which is exactly what I was hiring for. So that conversation led to hiring him. And then I thought, okay, this is not bad. So I set up shop in the coffee shop. This was again the days of the dial-up phones. Sorry, not the dial-up, not the mobile, but your landlines. I got my team to sort of work, got his number and got my team to work 10 numbers back and 20 numbers forward. And we cleaned out the entire team in about 2 weeks. And that was the next defining moment in my life, where I thought, well, actually, I think I might be good at something. And this is not too bad. So that sort of, cut to about 10 years later. I went ahead, I got educated myself in what, the world of HR. We moved to the US, we moved to Australia. The next defining moment really was about 2014, 2015, where I've done all the technical education that I needed in employment law and, mediation and all of that. And then I started venturing out into self-awareness. Like, okay, let's talk about this thing. What's self-awareness? What's empathy? So I enrolled myself to become a life coach. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It really was. And it really showed me perspective on how blind I was to who I was and what the potential could be. So that for me was the final defining moment, where it really sort of turned around my perspective and my abilities and what I could do, and the power of others, really, what I could also do to impact others. So that's me. Today, I manage a team of around 15 people. We look after 6 countries, and we continue to deal with people. I continue to learn every day. And I hopefully continue to improve every day as well. That's me.
Thanks, Rajita. So there is so much resilience, tenacity, self-awareness, storytelling, understanding. And so on the storytelling theme, everyone hold that thought, because we will come back to it. But welcome, Rajita, today. So Yasmin, we might go to you next, just for you to do your story of you, so we all understand kind of who you are and where you come from.
Excellent. And thank you so much for the opportunity, and lovely to be here with all of you this afternoon. So first and foremost, my name is Yasmin Sofia, and I'm a mother, a wife, a sister, and a daughter. Those are probably the core lenses that I see myself through. I came here to Australia when I was 17 years old, on my own, going to university on my own, thinking, oh, you know, I'll study my degree and I'll come back home to Indonesia and we'll go from there. But 15 years later, I'm still here, and Melbourne is home, alongside with my husband and my 2 kids. I started my career in the consulting industry, really tackling big, hairy problems around productivity, process improvement, and transformation. And then the last few years, I really laser focused on supporting organizations on how they can deliver value sooner, and in a dynamic and competitive environment. So this has led me to the current role that I'm in now, which is as the Enterprise Agility Design Lead at NBN, really supporting NBN through the tipping point of successfully connecting 8 billion happy homes across Australia to becoming a brilliant wholesaler, and tackling the complexities and the change and shift of mindset of being a build organization to a run and operate organization. So in my role, I partner across the enterprise to evolve our ways of working and the mindset, and really starting to influence the processes and structures and cultures to really unblock kind of organizational impediments on how to kind of align together as an organization and deliver faster speed to market. So the kind of areas that fill my cup and kind of give me a little bit of direction on, you know, am I working on the things that really matter? Is this filling me with energy? Am I excited to be here every day? Is really around big ideas that transform, accelerate, or innovate to really move the needle on business value. And aligned to that, being able to connect those big ideas to people, data, to really then actually enable that change and deliver that change. And I think it's quite rare to have the opportunity to look at kind of big strategy pieces, but then actually be connected into seeing that change and actually see the impact that it enables, which really is one of those, you know, tick the box moments for me throughout my career, when I'm able to actually see that end to end. Another big thing that really kind of fills my cup is family time. I know, if anything, through kind of COVID and being separated from my family, you know, it's really those, you know, FaceTime calls throughout the week with my family overseas. But then also, now that we're able to kind of travel a little bit more, prioritizing that, you know, close connection family time, and the family that I've made here in Melbourne as well. So those are the things that fill my cup and give me energy. And if I ever get a little bit wobbly around, am I in the right place at the right time? It's those kind of North Stars that kind of keep me aligned on where I am, and if I'm adding value to myself and to others around me. So that's me. Thanks, Maria.
Yasmin. And if there's anyone that I would give a big hairy problem to solve, Yasmin, it is you. So your ability, to navigate all of what that is, is absolutely impressive. And similar to you, my family is also not in Australia, so the FaceTime thing I totally can connect with. And it's another way that tech has actually enabled us is that communication aspect. So here to that. And then Alison, welcome to our group here today too. And so if you can introduce who you are and what makes up you, that would be great.
Thanks, Maria. Hi, everyone. I'm coming today from the Gadigal lands, the Eora Nation, in inner Sydney. And it's terrific to be in this conversation with you all. So thank you, Maria, for getting us all together. I graduated or started going to university at a time when 12% of Australian women had a university degree. I saw this stat yesterday and it really struck me. And that's shifted to 50% now. So, at a time when it was 12% to 50%, and I continually have to remind myself of that change and what we've seen, the big achievements and change over that time. but it probably also has still influences some of the way that I see the world and shift in that, you know, really trying to break new grounds and not having a lot of peers around me doing similar things. So I've always really appreciated International Women's Day and how it's shifted and changed over time. And yeah, I never quite imagined I would be kind of on the speaker panel. So I'm really thrilled to be, and I don't take that for granted either. So I always had a real curiosity about the way that the world works. I remember a kid getting the train to school, just kind of looking around going, where are these people going? And why aren't they in jobs now? Or why do people live here and not there? And how that happens? And so I followed that interest and did geography at university. And I'm now the chief executive of SGS Economics and Planning, and have the real privilege of leading a team of about 80 people that work with governments around those very questions. Where should people live? What's the economy going to look like? How do we shape more sustainable communities, and how all that fits together? So it's, you know, it really is linked to my real passion around how we can remove barriers for people's participation in their communities and ensure that people have the opportunity to, you know, live their best lives and have that opportunity. And I see how the shape of our cities really influences those opportunities that people have. So that kind of speaks to a little bit about what drives me and where I've landed where I am. I started my career in a private sector listed engineering firm, so at quite a big scale, and worked for them both in Sydney and overseas as well in the US. And that was pretty fundamental for me, that experience of working overseas, in just really understanding the value and the context and the real importance of politics and governance and how that influences decisions and what that potential is. And I can see a few nods of people that kind of, you know, understand that experience of living in different countries and that potential. And that really spurred me to want to actually go and work inside government. So I did that for a time. But then I felt increasingly not empowered to work the way that was important to me. And that was really about having strong teams around me of people that I really respected and, you know, that were able to challenge each other and have some agency, not only about the work that we were doing, but the way that we went about doing that work. And actually quite early in my career, one of the senior women that I worked with pulled me into a bit of a working group to kind of talk about how we could work a bit smarter together, which was probably, you know, for the day, starting to talk about how do we be a bit more agile, a bit more responsive, and, you know, a bit, do things a bit better and a bit happier and a bit safer. So we didn't quite have that language back then, but it was all the same stuff. So I think that kind of sparked an interest in me across the way that we work together, but also set quite early that real value of involving the whole team in that discussion, and understanding how different team members bring a real different perspective to that, and so much to learn from team members to continue to improve things as well. And I'm also going to share that 8 years ago I had breast cancer, and so I had time out of the workforce then, and, you know, it was caught really early, and I'm completely fine now, but that also gave me incredible perspective on work and on people around me, and also on real empathy for coming at things with real curiosity and understanding that sometimes at work we only just see the little surface of what's going on for people, and really bringing that empathy to working with teams and engaging with people, because people's lives are complex, right? And there's a bunch of different things happening. And I really found that once I started to talk to people, you know, whilst I was just getting thrown into this experience of having to run into runs of surgeries and treatments and pulling out of the workforce for a bit, how much of an experience this was for so many other people as well, and connecting with those stories, which was just really valuable. And also as a mum of 2 young girls, always helps you put things into perspective on that juggle. and balancing out, careers of, my partner is also in a quite senior role and she travels quite a lot as well. So there's always a bit of a juggle across what's happening. So I think in wrap up of that, I think I continue to bring my curiosity about, thinking about where people are going and what they're doing on the trains every day, not only into the work, but the way that we work, about learning every day and bringing in those diverse views around things. I think sometimes my analytical mind can get me a bit stuck in getting the perfect solution to things. And so I continually challenge myself to move faster and be okay with experimenting and changing and getting things not quite right, but just having a go a bit more and trusting the process and the team along the way as well. So that's kind of my little ongoing challenge at the moment.
I think, Alison, the level of humbleness that you have, like I had goosebumps. Of course you would be on a panel. I think all of us, there is so much, I think in what we've all experienced that I think we need to share. And this is a little bit of, we are all awesome, no matter what role, no matter what station, no matter what background. So how can we share with each other? So thank you for introducing yourself too. So on the, to kind of keep us going on the thread of impact and curiosity, and what does that then mean in terms of bringing those teams together? Alison, did you want to talk about share your story of impact?
Yeah, sure. So I talked a little bit about SGS, but we're a employee-owned group, and we've kind of been operating for about 30 years. We deliver about 350 projects for our clients each year, and we pulled together project teams as needed to meet the skills and experience for each of those projects. So for people that are kind of looking to go on an agile journey, we were like out there, just completely responsive, focused on our clients' outcomes. So kind of ticking all the boxes across all of that. But we were really struggling with that because we didn't, the team was kind of juggling multiple commitments. They were, didn't really have a sense of a home base and that kind of clear manager, because they had multiple managers across multiple projects. And so we actually went through a process of putting in place more structure that would help to facilitate us being able to respond to our clients more. So across a team of 60, we created 5 groups, we called them. And those groups still deliver multiple projects across multiple clients. They still work across groups, but there is a kind of closer home base for people that have a focus on workflow, ensuring people aren't overcommitted, have a focus on quality, and also having a focus on some of that continuity on project types. So you're building that learning back into projects. We're still underway with that process. One of the things we did with it was to create a bit of a ways of working document, which kind of outlined both what we expect of the team, but also what the team would expect of us in return. And we also worked pretty hard about what flexibility means at SGS, and trying to give some clear guardrails for the team around the way that they can work. And that was really kind of in response to a bit of the changes post-COVID as well. So we focused on both having the tools in place to support the team. So we did a big change with a big new practice management tool that allowed people to track workflow and kind of a bunch of back of house systems. We had a focus around the different systems around the group structures, and a different approach around clarity of roles and positions as well. And it's certainly, we've got a high level of engagement across the team. It's seen as increasingly successful around those ways of working. And we're continuing to do other things across the way that we work to further embed that structure. It's not been without its challenges. So we did have a bit of a mantra around a one SGS approach in that collaboration and connection across the whole team. So there's a big cultural shift along with it as well. But I think the increased clarity of roles has just reduced a lot of duplication that happened. And for our emerging professionals, provided some clearer career direction within that as well. So there were a bunch of different things that came together for it. I think what have I learned from that process is, again, I think just some of that experimentation and just calling it out, saying, well, we don't know if this is going to work, but let's give it a go, and we're all clever. Let's keep talking, figure it out. And our team's really engaged and feels quite empowered to, you know, throw ideas around and do stuff. So that's been quite effective. And I'm always thrilled when we get one of our consultants or our group leads come out and say, how about we do it this way? Most of the time I'll say yes, just to keep encouraging them to come up with different ideas, and then just help them kind of tweak it around the edges and tailor it to what could work more across the system. Because, yeah, I think we've learned over time as well that no one's replaceable through the business. So building that capacity and those systems and processes are quite important to build that resilience in the business over time as well, and allow other people to have opportunities to engage. So yeah, still a work in progress, but yeah, it's been really beneficial for the team.
I might open up for any thoughts, reflections. Yasmin, Rajita, there's some Deloitians on the in our group here today. So from a professional services point of view, I don't know if that resonates or not. But yeah, let me open it up for thoughts.
Probably my biggest takeaway is your level of curiosity, Alison, and willingness to experiment at that top leadership level, which I think is such a big leadership capability. That's a driver for success, to be able to say, you know, let's try it. We're not going to get the answer right the first time, but let's work it through together, and let's keep talking about what's working and what's not. I love that mindset and that approach.
Yeah, it's quite tricky, Yasmin, because I often get back from the team, you know, there's so much change happening. It's hard to know where to focus because there's all these different things coming. And I don't know, I've worked in government, I've worked in kind of bigger firms, there's always change happening. And I think that kind of comes with experience, that ability to just keep adapting and responding to change. And yeah, I'm really interested in how we can equip, you know, our team to think differently about change as well, just to how you kind of see change as a bit of a constant and an opportunity within that too. But yeah, it's really tricky. I had people say that to me this morning. There's so much change happening, and I'm thinking, well, it's not really. It's just like, yeah.
Awesome. Alison, you know, fantastic, sort of, you know, really good to hear from you, and the journey as well. My question to you is, personally for you, what was the hardest part?
Oh, probably the hardest part was to hit go on it. And, you know, I had done all the background work, I'd engaged with the literature and the experts around what's a good approach, to kind of think critically about how it would all fit within our culture and our organisation, and to kind of push through some of the resistance, you know, across the team, is to kind of just the way that we've always done it, and why do we need to change? So probably that trickiest part, which probably reflects on just having that confidence to keep pushing through that. So yeah.
Great question. Thanks, Rajita. All right. Beautiful. Thanks for sharing, Alison, your story of impact. Rajita, we might go to you next on your story of impact. Did you want to care to share?
So my story of impact is along similar lines, but also again, in the position that I am in, responsible for the culture of the organization. And I've tried my hardest to try to, debunk that belief that culture sits with HR or people in culture. It sits with everyone. I guess a bit of a background about the organization. So we are a very traditional, very old industry as well. Lots of cultural diversity. It is international by nature. We also are the third largest in the world, which means there's a complex matrix organization. You report to you have a cluster, you have a regional office, you have a head office, etc. And there's constant change because we are also the fastest growing company in logistics in the last 5 years. So we have had 5 acquisitions in the last 6 months. And that's been the constant pace of change, which means it's almost a coming together of different cultures, different sensitivities, different sensibilities. Not a lot of thought put into how do we integrate? Who are we? What do we stand for? So last year, there's been a lot of work that we've been doing over the last couple of years. But then last year, we sort of came together to say, hey, we need to create a brand identity. We need to create what we want to propel the organization forward in terms of culture. And at the same time, very much keep in mind that, you respect the old, but then you move towards the new as well. And how do we do it? So we came together. The idea was the most important part in creating change, obviously, is mindset and behavior. How do you change, start with changing mindsets and behavior, and that will lead to positive culture. So that was the beginning of the idea. There was a lot of work involved from the leadership team. So the number one thing was really collecting the metrics. And again, thanks to my engineering background, I love data and I love storytelling. How do you convert data into storytelling and actual decision making? So lots of metrics on, internally quantitative, qualitative feedback. We did a bit of benchmarking with best in class, what's happening outside, not just of our company or our industry, but what really is happening outside. What are people looking for? It was a good time to do it. I'm sure we all agree that, COVID disrupted what we all want from our life and from work. And, so it was sort of at the cusp of what do we stand for? What do we want? What are we creating here? So collected a lot of data. The next part was really onboarding the leadership team because it had to be something that was co-owned by everyone. And that took a little bit of time. I mean, we're all different people, so it does take a bit of time. But once we came together, we then sort of started designing a framework. So to the point where it was more, the problem we're trying to address here, low morale, low engagement, attrition. People are like, I can't see my career development. I don't know if I want to work for this team. So how do we sort of turn that into what do we want? Like, are we clear as a leadership team? So we got the ELT together, we brought the SLT together, and we sort of designed a strategy which was very much multi-pronged. It wasn't just, your usual, customer experience and, product development, and we need to do that. Yes, but how are we going to get there? What is it that you and I are going to change to get there? So we really had that multi-pronged strategy where every sort of BU head had to come up with their strategy, but then that also involved the key pillars that we've discussed. And for the first time in the history of our organization, we actually introduced behaviors and acceptable behaviors. And what do we want to promote? The next part was really sort of, coming up with a people strategy that was based on all of the data collection and also very much attuned to where the business is headed. We don't want to go off in another direction, so let's integrate everything. And it was also very much cross-pollinated. The people strategy had business elements, the business strategy had people elements. So it was all sort of, it was all seamless storytelling when it came to what language are we speaking here. The third important part is actual delivery. So, it's all well and good to do all of this, but how do you get runs on the board? How are you actually delivering? So that was quite key. So we've made some major changes in just our base DNA, our formal approach as well. So everything from, how we interact with people, our talent management strategies, our people development strategy, even our performance management strategy. So it was great to see that the company strategy was actually forming part of objectives for each and every employee in the organization to say, you actually have a KPI for collaboration. We are going to share that KPI. We are actually going to develop key competencies, and these are the things that we are going to work on together. So we've gotten to that point where we've actually started introducing that this year, where you're saying the 2023 objectives are very much in line with where we want to be as an organization, not just in terms of a dollar value or, market share, but also in terms of behavior, in terms of culture, and in terms of leadership development. We then took it to another level where we said, okay, every communication, everything needs to be sort of wound into a bit of a storytelling. Okay, so every piece of communication that's coming out is consistent. It's saying the same thing. The behaviors are saying the same thing. So everything from our, our all hands meetings, our company all in days, the feedback that the leaders will, how do you give feedback? How do you receive feedback? The concept of receiving feedback, unheard of. So how do you also try to receive feedback as a leader? Skip level meetings, making sure that we're keeping in touch. That's sort of continuing on. So that's been sort of really, and the proof in the pudding, really, again, I go back to where I started, which is metrics. How do we measure this? And we need to continue to measure it. So we are at the point where we are sort of at the 8 to 9 month mark now, where we want to put in place a measurement criteria, a bit of a pulse check. Let's try to see how things are going. We are getting a lot more feedback than we used to before, because we do have a lot more involvement from everyone for decision making. It's not a group of leaders sitting in a boardroom making decisions for 800 people. It is actually, representatives that are challenging and that are involved. The key takeaway for me is really just being authentic. Just be authentic. I think people are sick of bullshit, to be honest. Everyone is. Just be authentic. No one is perfect. We don't have to be perfect, but as long as we are committed to the result, we're true to ourselves, and we are continuing to challenge ourselves. Because, the concept of change is always, generally from a leader's perspective, change is important, but it's all great for everyone else, not for me. So how do we ensure that we're kind of starting the change journey ourselves? So that would be my story of impact.
Thanks, Rajita. So there's a connection from Allison's confidence, curiosity, and empathy all the way through to behaviors, experimentation, data, storytelling, feedback. All the things in terms of the practical things that the things that we need to have, and the how-tos. I'll open it up to any questions or reflections. Allison, Yasmin, or anyone else, by all means, please, pop yourselves off mute.
Thanks, Rajita. I loved the challenge across feedback. It's something we've worked at for a long time, and it's still tricky, but it's such a gift when it works across the whole organization. And it just helps with that authenticity, isn't it? So yeah, it's really valuable. Yeah. We get it strongly from our clients as well. So we ask for it at the end of each project. We have project review meetings where we have it, and we try and do it more one-on-one as well. But it needs that constant attention to, particularly for some of our more established colleagues, to just be able to listen to it and not have to reply or respond or justify, just listen. Yeah.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think and that was sort of the biggest challenge as well, for everyone to acknowledge that, that's the first point. You cannot even talk about the problem until you understand and acknowledge there is a problem. Yeah. So, and it's not a blame game. Like, how do we have that safe space where everyone's okay with coming forward with their point of view, right, wrong, good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. Yeah. We're just creating that environment.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, awesome. Thank you, Rajita. Yasmin, please share us your story of impact.
I'm happy to, and thanks again for the opportunity. So the problem at hand was really the kind of first experiment that we tried. One of the first bigger experiments that we tried across NBN was to try to blow through the functional silos in the organization and really create cross-functional teams to tackle these complex enterprise-wide problems. And the method of delivery was really kind of handing off an idea or a problem and handing off from one team to another. So our experiment and our hypothesis is bringing the right people with the right skills, have the right people to make those decisions, and just get stuff done. So that was, the hypothesis that we had, and we worked with business leaders within the organization who were willing to take on that experiment and that hypothesis. One of the things, though, throughout this process was we identified that a pattern of a culture of direct appointments to these new roles or individuals being voluntold, say, hey, that sounds like a great opportunity. Yasmin, you're in that role now. You're going to be the design lead on that team now, which meant that, it might have been really great for that person, but didn't really necessarily take into consideration whether or not that was aligned to their own individual career goals. And also really identified that potentially you're missing out on opportunities on potential talent, those who aren't directly in your view, but those who have the right potential and the right mindset to really tackle, and also the curiosity to tackle problems wider than their kind of functional remit. So the approach we took was, first of all, from a people lens, we really wanted to increase transparency and equity to these kind of unknown opportunities. Because we were starting kind of with cross-functional teams, it wouldn't necessarily be a job posting ad that we could kind of align to. So how do we get these opportunities better seen? So what we really focused on was not necessarily a specific skill set that we wanted them to bring around, but focused more around the mindset, the expectation of having someone coming in with a growth mindset, kind of taking off their kind of functional hat, but really be more outcome focused. The fact that, you're going to pitch into things beyond your potential kind of role remit, and work together as a team to get stuff done. We engage with people leaders and SLTs early to kind of encourage curiosity and encourage their team members to look at this as a potential opportunity, and almost redefining that career ladder as almost like a career matrix to kind of go, what could be that next step to just broaden my experience as well. So within the process lens, what we did to kind of enable that is we established a register your interest process to really kind of create a virtual talent pool or a bench of talent to draw on as we were creating these smaller cross-functional teams. So within these, this kind of bench of talent, we'd kind of keep in touch, get a bit of clarity around what their experience is, what their experience with agility might be, or what they'd like, or their curiosity around agility, and kind of testing for that mindset as well. And from we've even tried to put in a bit of a technology lens on this as well now. At the moment, it's been a little bit of a manual process alongside kind of the agility team and our kind of internal recruitment team as well. A talent acquisition team, sorry. So working kind of cross-functionally from that perspective, but now we're actually looking at a bit of a proof of concept on how we can turn on some of our HR tools and systems to enable kind of a gig protocol to be able to actually align these to people who have kind of said within their career profile are interested in learning more about agility, have agility experience, interested in taking on enterprise-wide problems as well. And so the impact that's had, we've had about 70 or so individuals actually sign up to be part of this talent bench and talent pool. And within the last 2 quarters, we've made about 15 appointments into cross-functional teams in new roles, whether that's through kind of formal secondments or temporary assignments to kind of circle people through around that. Some of the outcome has been individuals actually choosing to pivot a little bit in their career and taking on, they might have been a technical business analyst, actually jumping into more of a Scrum Master role because they really enjoyed working in these teams. And it's really informed and kind of changed the lens a little bit around the internal mobility approach at NBN, what that could mean, and that strategy more widely, and really taking a different lens to look at talent and not just looking at the individual in the role and the skills that they have now, but the experience that they bring with them from previous roles, but also the potential that they have in the growth mindset aspect of it as well. So it's these kind of small signals that I think make an overarching impact.
Yeah, how amazing the flip there from you know, being told to do something and then being able actually to be able to choose what you're then working on. That's part, you know, a large part of why I think people like consulting, for example, because there's a little bit more autonomy. So to be able to then do that, Yasmin, in your space, I think is an amazing flip. It's the invite over inflict.
That's it.
Yeah, that we often talk about. Any
you're
reflection?
You're essentially self-selecting people who want to be there as well, which is a big success factor in implementing change and different ways of working. Yeah.
And then the level of empowerment you then actually have to then own it, go for it. Yeah, total flip. Any other thoughts?
No, it's excellent. I think, I mean, you know, just trying to break silos across organizations is just sometimes is the hardest thing to do. And it's the little things, right? I mean, it's the little things, it's the little ideas, the little thoughts. If, you know, if it takes wings and you can see that there are results, that's where it has such a big impact on the entire organization. So no, love it. I look forward to speaking to you more about it, Yasmin.
Oh, absolutely. We'd love to trade notes.
Really interesting, isn't it, that theme across people having agency over what they're doing, and that giving people opportunities who really want to engage more and do more and progress and think about things differently, just giving them space to run with it, because there's such amazing talent. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's the people who know the work and also that aspect of delegated decision making to kind of go, you're closest to the work, you know, we want to empower you to actually make the decisions to just drive fast within the guardrails that are given. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. It's I think it's an empowering, totally empowering thing. I think we should all be copying that one. Yasmin. So yeah, that is a pattern to follow. Awesome. So maybe what we can do next is think about then. So with all those stories of impact, what are the learnings? What are the takeaways? Everyone have a think about what those are for you. I might and so I think the reason to do that is, one, because we need to now, so it's good to hear and to have awareness and to learn, but then what is it that we're then going to apply and then do next, I think is often what is missing sometimes. And so if there is a what could be even better if challenge, perhaps, whether it's within your existing context or it's Alison, Rajita, Yasmin, because I'm going to come back to the three of you. So those were awesome stories of impact, but now whether it's in a different context or it's you know, following on from what you've just described, what could actually be even better if, like, what are you thinking about? What's next? And Alison, I might go back to you to start us off again. Yeah, what are you thinking about?
Yeah, so we're continuing to evolve the way we're approaching all this, which I spoke about before. And I think, you know, one of the things I think we need to continue to build on is that storytelling. So I really appreciate those stories today about that, because, you know, we've got more data than ever about how our business operations and how we're working. But the key thing is how we build that out as a story to really engage people, and then to really empower people about, you know, working and focusing in a way that's going to, you know, help them succeed and help their group succeed. So I think that link back to storytelling is pretty key. And, you know, how we can do that in a way that really targets the different experiences across the team in the organisation. So, you know, the executives and kind of our board needs to understand things differently than what, you know, our entry-level consultants and others would need to understand about where the opportunities lie for them and how that fits. So that's probably our challenge going forward as we continue to kind of put in some other things around our ways of working that really kind of make it more effective.
Yeah. And I think just on that storytelling piece, it's almost like, how do we go back to what actually a good story is? Like when a good story makes us feel, there's always a problem. There's always what have you done? And then there's some sort of impact. So the more, I guess, emotion, and I think this comes back a little bit to the authenticity that we've been talking about, the more real that it can be then. So how do we let our guard down, but then use data so that it is fact-based? Because sometimes too much emotion gets us into tension and troubles, but how do we then evoke the, what's the so what and how can we do something about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one, storytelling. Rajita, what about you? What could be even better if in what you're thinking about?
Just getting back to basics and keeping it simple. I think sometimes we all get too caught up in, complex programs and what this would mean and, delivery timelines. And then I think we are too focused on the delivery timelines and forget why we're doing it. So just sort of keeping it real, keeping it simple and keeping it authentic, being okay to move. I do think it's okay to move the goalpost because it really depends on, we are in a very fast changing world. It's very fast moving. It's important to sort of have a bit of a pulse on what exactly is going on so you can pivot, because change is the only constant. I mean, for us in our organization, we are at the cusp of another big change. And getting it right from the leadership level is important because that is the proof. The proof is, I've been talking about this, am I actually practicing it? So, make sure that we don't forget why we started off doing what we started doing. And then even if it doesn't fit in a Gantt chart or in a plan, it's okay because I know my purpose. I know why I'm doing something. So just keep it real, keep it simple, and keep it authentic.
And so what would be your top tip, Rajita, for how do we actually check ourselves to make sure that our behaviors are actually aligning? So the actions that we're taking or the things that we're doing actually aligns back to that. What would be your top tip?
Couple of things. One is I'm a big fan of sort of always staying within the player's arena. The minute we start saying, okay, I can't do this because that's not working or this is not working, you're in a spectator's arena. You don't have control. Stay within your control. I'm sorry, my light's gone off. But stay within your player's arena. Stay with what is it that I can do to impact change. And the second one is feedback. Again, I would be blind to what's behind me unless I'm on a screen and I can't see myself now. But stay open to feedback and constantly seek feedback, because you want to make sure that, and whether that's a mentor, it's a coach, it's a coworker, it's a family member, it doesn't matter what aspect of your life, but stay true to yourself. Authenticity has to start from the self.
Yeah, no truer words spoken. Thank you. Good top tips. And Yasmin, so in your context, what could even be better if?
My theme is also very aligned to Alison and Rajita. I think throughout the conversation that we've had today, I think everyone in this virtual room can agree that change is hard. Driving change is hard, but absorbing change is also just as hard, if not harder. And one of the things that I think could be better if is just around alignment of value. I think that's one of the biggest drivers to help cut through bureaucracy, and it's aligned to the storytelling angle and that keeping it simple and authenticity angle that Rajita has as well, is that if large organizations or teams or big complex programs first take the time to really articulate what their value systems are and how everyone connects and contributes to that value, it really helps set alignment on the journey that we're kind of about to take. And in large, kind of very functional siloed organizations, it's sometimes hard to get that consistent through line across. So for me, it's that alignment back to value, because that can really drive the mobilization of the systems of change that we're all trying to work through, how we organize the work and the people around that, to really kind of then, hit the pedal faster on ways of working and the improvements and the impacts that it can make.
Yeah, totally spot on, Yasmin. It's I got a question yesterday, which was where is kind of all this new tech and innovation going? Like there's robots coming everywhere, but how do we not just build the new shiny thing? And I think what you're talking about there is going back to what is the value, what is the outcome, what are we actually trying to deliver, what are we optimizing for? And that's totally the so what.
Absolutely.
Nice one. Well, thank you. Thank you, Alison, Rajita, Yasmin. I have to say, I love to collect women, and not because I don't like anybody else, but because I think having awesome women in one's a circle is such an awesome experience, because we can all learn from each other, grow, do better things together, I think. So thank you for joining the three of you today and spending the time with us. Thank you, Janani, Joe, and Yuhan, if I've said that right, sorry about that. And and a couple of others who have joined us today. But I think this is exactly the intent of sharing those stories, so that we can make, even if it's just our day today, better, but then spark some reflections for later and for tomorrow. So thank you for joining me today, and for being so open, authentic, and experimenting and sharing today.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
It's been a great
all.
conversation.
Thanks, everyone. It was amazing. Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.